Alright, so this is my whirlwind barbarian. I'm going to show you some Act 3 Inferno, and I'll show you the spec and my stats and all the stuff at the end. I'll kind of explain how it works. So we're going to go Act 3, Heart of Sin, Second Heart. This is where I like to farm if I'm going to do Act 3, because you can get your 5 stacks and then go do the spider boss and Asmodan. So make sure to get your battle rage up and your impunity, Warcry impunity up, and then pretty much just sprint and get up a bunch of mobs following you, making your tornadoes as you get it. I've got a fair amount. As soon as I find an elite, I'll kill all these guys with the elite. As long as you're moving, you're not gonna die. So and to keep the mobs following you, you kind of have to keep doubling back, and you can use whirlwind to cut through them, so you don't have any clipping or anything whenever you're using whirlwind, so you can just go right through the mobs. Just make sure your shouts stay up. There's an elite. Okay. So now we use Berserker so that we don't get rooted or feared or anything like that. You just make big circles. If you make too tight of circles, you won't make any whirlwind or any tornadoes. So, oh, ran out of range. Here we go. So just kind of running circles and cutting in between mobs like this, and you'll do alright. When you're down to 1, you can just focus them down with Frenzy. Whenever you're focusing them down, make sure you're using up all the rage that you can so that your Thieves of Chaos doesn't go away. And switch into Magic Find Gear right before the kill. Alright. We'll go find another elite. Kill one more elite, and then I'll explain the build choices and show you my gear. My gear is really not that great for doing Act 3. I probably shouldn't be doing Act 3, really, but for the purposes of showing the video, Act 2 would be too easy. I can do Act 2 with no problem at all, not even a challenge, really. There's no possibility of death in Act 3, but I don't quite have enough crit for Act 3. I cannot find another elite. So when you're trying to make sure that your rage stays up, just kind of make like these zigzag patterns. Since you're running faster than the mobs, you won't want to lose them. If you lose them, you don't have anything to build rage on. The more mobs you get, the easier it is, really. As long as you're moving, you can't die. Here's another elite. Don't really have a big group, but it'll work. So you kind of want to make sure that you're not using up too much of your fury. Once you get to about 50% fury, you want to stop whirlwinding like that and just keep running until you get up to 50% or higher. And switch. Alright, so we'll go back to town and I'll show you the stats of the lab. Alright, here's my stats. Pretty low. I would like to have at least 35% crit without being buffed or anything. Turn off Warcry. My resistances are decent for being dual wield. Crit damage is not very high. Most people have like 300 plus, and life on hit is 1500. So these are your entry level stats for Act 3. I wouldn't recommend farming it with these stats because you can do Act 2 a lot quicker and get more elites per hour. Therefore you can get more 63s. And here's my gear. Just pause the video to take a closer look at it. Okay, now for the spec. The spec for the most part is pretty standard with a lot of other whirlwind builds out there, with the exception of Frenzy and Sidearm. Frenzy and Sidearm is your highest DPS single target ability that you have that generates Fury. And pretty much all tank barbs out there use this combination with Frenzy and then everything else defensive. But I picked this up because it allows you to have a way to generate Fury whenever you're not running around, or whenever you only have like 1 or 2 mobs. Especially with the mobs that run away from you, it's hard to keep the Fury generating because they won't be standing in your whirlwind or your tornadoes very much. So a lot of people complain with this build with getting enough Fury to get it going. Like getting the spec rolling is the difficult part, but with this you can pretty much start and stop whenever you feel like it, and it doesn't matter how many mobs you have. So Whirlwind's great for AoE, and then you got Frenzy whenever you're down to just a single target or the kitey type mobs. Thieves of Chaos is what everybody uses because when you generate Fury, you get an extra second on the duration. So you get an extra 10% crit, 25% attack speed, the dodge is nice, and the movement speed is nice. So, using the Into the Fray rune with Battle Rage, you generate 15 rage for every time you crit. Whirlwind hits really fast. It doesn't hit very hard, but it hits really fast. And the tornadoes that you spawn from Sprint do the exact same thing. They don't hit really hard, but they hit really fast. So you are generating ridiculous amounts of rage, or Fury, sorry. You generate a lot of Fury with your Whirlwind and your tornadoes, mainly your tornadoes. So you're generating a lot of Fury, which then keeps this basically maxed out for the duration the whole time. As long as you have something to hit and you're critting, which you should be critting with at least 30%, and then you've got the 10% on top of this, so about 40% of the time you're critting, so you're generating a ridiculous amount of Fury. The key point in this, which a lot of people don't know, is when your Fury is maxed, when it's 100%, you don't add any seconds to the duration of this unless you have some Fury to generate. If you're full, you technically aren't generating Fury. So you have to keep spending it to keep the time up on this, which as long as you're doing Whirlwind, you're spending 15 Fury like every second and a half or 2 seconds. So that's not a big deal. But whenever you don't have a lot of mobs and you're just sprinting, you need to spam sprint over and over and over to get rid of your Fury, so that you have room to keep generating to keep this up. Especially if you're just single targeting with Frenzy, it generates a decent amount of Fury once you have the 5 stacks of attack speed up. but you need to keep spamming sprint and battle rage if you want to just dump your rage to keep this up. Another important thing with this Wrath of the Berserker, keeping that rolling, is that the mobs that jail, freeze, fear, stun, you can't be CC'd in any way with this on. So it's pretty key to keep this rolling at all times. And Warcry is pretty standard for every spec. So yeah, that's the build and the spec and the choices that I made to alter it. So leave comments, tell me what you think. Thanks for watching.